Hey everybody, welcome to the last IT podcast in the world, Origin Story Edition, our new format where we talk to people about their career and how they got here. Look, I'm with Natalie Lemke, CEO of RUX Software. Welcome to the pod, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here.
Terrific. As you know, we're going to do the last IT podcast in the world 𝗧𝗵𝗲, 10 questions to reveal your deepest, innermost thoughts here in a second, and then we'll get into your career a little bit. But tell just briefly, what does RUX Software do and what's your role?
I'm currently CEO of RUX Software. We are an industrial and industrious provider of apps. We focus on folks that have large industrial assets, construction, mining, oil field service, energy, trenching, shoring, boring, anything where you need a big piece of equipment to get a job done. We've got a large rental app. We've got a field service app that sits inside of Business Central, and then recently acquired ERP Connect Consulting, and so have added those productivity apps to the group as well.
Fantastic. That's a lot. That's a lot to be CEO over. We're going to figure that out in a minute. But first, we always ask on the origin story format these 10 questions on the 𝗧𝗵𝗲. We'll ask this, we'll take a break, and then we'll get into how you got here in your career. You ready to go?
Sounds good.
All right. Question number 1. Pineapple on pizza, ?
Ooh, I'm a yes. Pineapple
You're a
on
yes.
pizza. Very divisive,
Okay.
but I'm a yes.
Were you always a yes, or did you have to become like 30 years old or?
I'm a you do you on pizza.
Okay. Yeah. Why are we fighting about this?
Right. Exactly. Let's
You
come
can
together.
even get a pizza with half of one topping and half of another, people. Yes. Let's unite. Terrific. Okay. Question number 2. What was your first car?
I had a red 2-door Dodge Shadow that was a hand-me-down from my dad.
The old hand-me-down car. I don't even remember the Dodge Shadow. Is it kind of sporty?
I think the 4-door version was called a 𝗪𝗂𝗻. If you
yes, I remember
a
the
𝗪𝗂𝗻.
𝗪𝗂𝗻.
Yes. So imagine that, but just 2 doors. And I don't think I would call it a sporty car. I think it was a driver you were happy to give to your teenage daughter.
Terrific. Good. I like that. Okay. What's the last book you finished? Question number 3.
The Ministry of Time was the last book that I finished from a fiction perspective. And then I read Dan Heath's Reset. I just finished that on an airplane 2 weeks ago for nonfiction.
Love the mix of fiction and nonfiction. Is that normal for you? A little bit of both?
I had a very good friend who told me that he was able to read significantly more books in a calendar year when he had the freedom of choice. And so he started keeping 2 different books active at any point in time on his nightstand. And so I started doing that about 6 months ago, and it's amazing. Like, I read so much. I'm a voracious reader anyway, but now I read even more because it's like, okay, I need to relax my mind, or
terrific.
I want to learn something.
Yeah, this isn't about me, but I've just gotten back into reading fiction, and I think it's really good for our brains. We'll talk about that some other time. All right. Any broken bones in your life?
Left elbow.
Left elbow? That sounds awful.
Elbow. It was too many cartwheels in the backyard.
Okay.
Age
yeah.
12.
I would have guessed like a trampoline accident, but backyard, we're in the vicinity. Totally get it.
Yep.
All right. Birth order. Do you have siblings, and where do you fall in the birth order sequence?
I am the oldest, and I have a younger sister and a younger brother.
I would have guessed oldest. I don't know.
I was going to say, I have a real firstborn energy about me.
Yeah, but I think there's a good blend in there. I see it. Okay, what's your driving song? Here's the setup. It's a perfect May or June day. It's 75, 80 degrees outside. You feel good for some reason. This song comes on your playlist or radio or whatever it is, and your life is good. Oh, you told me this. I know the artist, but I can't remember the song.
Celine Dion, Love Can Move Mountains. I am like just big anthem, all the good feelings. It's my favorite. Celine Dion Greatest Hits is my favorite long road driving CD.
All right. I'm collecting these songs. I'm not sure I've listened to a Celine Dion song all the way through that wasn't a part of a movie soundtrack, but I'm going to go listen to this after this call and be inspired. Thank you for that. Big anthem energy from you. And will you sing along?
I mean, in my car.
Yeah, of course. Of course. All right. And now your home is in Florida, correct?
correct. Yes. So
That influences. Yeah.
I'm in Palm Harbor, Florida, so a little bit north of the Tampa Clearwater area.
This next question is definitely a north or south question. What's the worst month?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think January is the worst month
Okay.
anywhere. It's the coldest, the grayest. We don't know holidays for at least for me,
Yeah.
It's just
I'm close. I'm a February, but
mm,
I'm in the vicinity of you for the nearly the same reasons, but terrific.
hmm
Good. All right. If you could live the rest of your life in either the mountains or the ocean, I think I maybe know the answer to this. What would you choose?
I am an ocean 100%.
Okay. Ocean. Understand that. Do you get in the ocean much, or is it just being near that's enough for you?
I just like to be close. I just like to
Yeah.
be close. I like the weather that comes with being coastal. I have little kids right now, so we dig like beach is a good day.
Yeah.
hmm And
Understand completely.
I don't know, walk on a beach versus a hike in a mountain. I'm a walk on the beach kind of gal. hmm
Understand. There's no wrong answer. Terrific. Okay. I think I know this one too because we've talked a little bit. What was your high school persona? And here's just a not complete list of the personas. Yeah. Jock, cheer, mean girl, nerd, band geek, art geek, emo, etc. And by the way,
Uh,
I grew up in Colorado, so there was another group called like Cowboys and Cowgirls. We literally had like
ooh,
ranchers. So like
ooh.
what's your high school? Who if I came
I
across you in high school, which one were you?
definitely nerd, leaning band nerd, but traditional nerd, like lettered in Science Olympiad nerd.
I was gonna. That's a follow up question. After we get out of that, we're gonna talk about the Science Olympiad. Okay, so, terrific. Yeah, and by the and fair and like I was band nerd, third or fourth ring from the cool kids. I knew
Mm.
kids that knew the cool kids, but the cool kids didn't care a thing about me. So, all right, okay. Final question out of 10. You've done great. If you could have any job or career in the world, what would it be? There's no limits on this.
Sure.
Whatever.
Um, I think I would really enjoy being the receptionist at like a title company where people are coming in to buy their home or sign paperwork to sell their home. I know a lot of this happens digitally right now, but definitely like greeter, the front end warmer upper, like this is a big day, but also like a little bit of calming vibes, walk them into the conference room, then go back to the front desk, get the mail, answer the phone, schedule meetings.
Maybe
Lots.
I wasn't clear. Maybe I wasn't clear on this question, Natalie. You can choose any job in the world. You could be the road manager for Celine Dion. But okay,
I
wow.
want to
I
be the
think
receptionist at a title company. I'm telling you, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Am
I
I
love
emoted
it.
off the podcast?
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. That is by the way, that is a low key, low stress job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand it.
But like more than 80% of your experiences are interacting with people that are having like a big and generally positive life event happening, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a good vibe.
Yeah, well, again, not about me, but one time I interviewed for a job. I had two job offers on the same day, and I desperately needed a job. The one job was fantastic. The second job was to be the IT leader for a company that had to do medical debt collections from people who the hospital had handed their debt over to this company. And we had to strong arm people into collecting money from poor people who had
hmm
been sick in the hospital. That's the opposite of the receptionist at the title company. Yeah. So terrific. No, I love that more than I can say. It's so unexpected, but like you didn't hesitate because, and you said you'd thought about this a lot. So I love that. Terrific. Good for you. I hope
That's
you
my
get that
encore.
someday.
That's my encore career. Like once
Yeah.
I'm in a position where, there's no reason for me to continue doing what I'm doing, that's
Yeah.
my over the rainbow job. That's my encore career. Like last 5 years on this corporate work slog, like that's where I'm going to be sitting.
Yeah. We'll move it to the break here in a minute, but not a word of a lie. In the last month, I've looked at local school bus driving positions for me, like for my last stage of my career, which I'm not ready for. But anyway, all right,
Right.
terrific. Thank you. Thank you for taking the question. That was super interesting. We're going to take a short musical break, and we'll be right back to talk about how Natalie got here in her career. Thanks.
You.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the last IT podcast in the world, Origin Story Edition with Natalie Lemke, CEO of RUX Software. Natalie, just to frame it for the people, this is only the second format I've done of the origin story, but this is not like our normal podcast with my regular host. We're sort of looking at where we are in our career, you specifically, and looking back and like, how did you get here? What were the formative moments? Who were you as a kid? To sort of like learn, like, I think careers are fascinating, but how we got here is also fascinating. And I think sometimes it's good to look backwards and
Mm-hmm.
sort of appreciate the twists and turns, the goods and the bads that sort of shaped how we got here. So thank you for doing that. So let's go. I told you I want to start. Tell me about your letter jacket again. You lettered in high school. Let's go there. Tell me more. Did you actually have a letter jacket for
I did. I did.
Science
So
Olympiad? Just to refresh, you lettered in Science Olympiad
correct.
and you got the jacket too. Tell me more.
Yes, I'm happy to tell you more. So I really wanted a letter jacket. I wanted to letter. And my parents, lovely as they were, let me know that I was indeed going to have to buy my own letter jacket. And I, at the time, was a sandwich artist at Subway Sandwich Shop in Woodbury, Minnesota. And I worked there for folks that remember this. I worked there during the transition from when they cut the top out of the bread, more like a boat,
Yes,
and layered the meat in, to the sideways slice. That was
that's
a
a
big
big.
deal. That
That's
change
when you
happened
learned
while I was
about
there.
change management.
I did. I did. Earliest moment. So I was working there. I think I was earning $5 an hour. And I really wanted to buy a letter jacket. And I had lettered in Science Olympiad, ninth grade, and then went on to letter in band. And then I did 1 year of track in high school. I got that letter last. And so I had my primary letter on my letter jacket was Science Olympiad, and then I had a pin for band and a pin for track. And I would say 1600 meters was the race that I ran, and it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch. I did not get invited back.
Did you? But you. So normally, when I think of athletic lettering, you have to sort of meet. Did you? Was it just like if you show up for track, you get a letter?
Yes, you're pretty close. I could
Okay.
run a sub 10-minute mile, which is like
Wow.
pretty decent, but not consistent enough to stay on the track team. So
Yeah.
got my letter jacket in Science Olympiad. And as soon as I got my letter, my first letter, which was Science Olympiad, I went to the store, Bielenberg Ice Center in Woodbury, Minnesota, brought my cash that I had saved up from babysitting and Subway sandwich shop, and I bought myself a letter jacket.
Fantastic. I never got a letter jacket. I was in band. I wasn't athletic. I was small. I grew a lot after high school. But anyway, I remember I was thinking letter jackets back in my day. You had the athletic letter jackets. They had the letter of your high school, like,
Hmm.
big letter. The band letter jackets like had a harp. Like, do you remember this? Like they put like a big fuzzy, like instead of the letter, it had the harp. Then there was cheer letter jackets, and we didn't even have Science Olympiad. That's how old I am. So I never got those things. And so if we start there, that means you were kind of, I'm going to read between the lines, a good student. You were getting good grades. Is this a part of your career? Like, how does high school fit into like where you are today a little bit, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I think probably two things. I do enjoy friendly competition. And I would say just prior to if we do a junior high moment, just a singular
Oh, you
junior
can
high
you can go
moment.
back as far as you want.
I mean, this is probably where we should start. We had a reading challenge where you read books in junior high and you took a quiz and you earned points. Okay, that was the equation. And most kids read 10 to 12 books throughout the school year. You got your accelerated reading points, and then at the end of the year, uh, it was part of your English language arts grade. You had to accomplish this.
Yeah.
There was another student and I, Nate, who both were voracious readers. And so we would read books and take tests and read books and take tests and read books and take tests. And I think I was at like 1,080 points at the end of the school year. And I think he was at 1,087 points at the end of the school year. And I would be confident in saying that each of us took tests on more than 50 books. And like
Wow.
it was a fierce competition, and we were both in Science Olympiad together. But I had
Of
some really
course.
great junior high teachers that were like, "Oh, this is the thing you're into? Well, here's a here's a competitive way for you to spend some time on that thing that you're into." Like I was into science, and so I had really great science teachers that were like, "Okay, so you're into science. So here's how you compete in science-based events." And I really liked that. So it was the intersection of like, what am I interested in and where can I compete in that
And
thing?
I'm so glad we accidentally ended up there because I want to talk about your career right because of that moment, or ask you this question, and I've got some sort of follow-ups. So I believe, no, let me ask you. So how does a love for reading that you had very early on and obviously before junior high fit
Mm-hmm.
into who you are in your career today? Meaning, how does just reading and absorbing information voraciously factor into your career?
I think everybody's interested in something, whether it's, we were talking about the folks that lettered in athletics or the folks that lettered in cheer or band or whatever. Everybody's got an area of special interest. The thing that's nice about reading though is you can have a lot of varied interests, and through reading fiction and nonfiction, you can rapidly expand your horizons on the things that you know and the things that maybe you've got a small amount of information on that you want to learn more. Um, and so I think it feeds information acquisition. Like I want to learn more about this. So I am of the behavior pattern that I'm going to grab a book and I'm going to read more. And I had just that, then segueing into high school, I had this really great Mr. Johnson, really great history and political science teacher. And he taught a class, and one of his primary grading mechanisms was the number of references you had for each of the formal papers that you had to write. And so as soon as he handed out the assignments, I would like rush to our public library. I would get all the books on like Mesopotamia so that I could have the most references. And then I would like really crank on this paper, not because I was really particularly interested in Mesopotamia, but because I was like, I want to have 22 references in this paper so that I know that I get an A plus on this paper. And so that's like a really, again, very motivating for a student and a learner to say, you need to get a lot of different pieces of information on a particular subject to form an opinion, to to really deeply understand it. That's super helpful, not just a kid who likes to read, who likes to learn new things, but getting that perspective. Like I need a lot of perspectives to write a paper, form an opinion.
Yeah, terrific. In the industry that we're in, which is essentially technology centric, I contend that of course it's changed. It has been changing rapidly for 30 years. It's never not been changing rapidly. It might even be changing more rapidly now. I think the ability to read a lot about industry, technology, directions, people, learning, growing is really a way to sort of end up like Natalie Lemke, which in leadership positions, you've just practiced your whole life taking in information rapidly is what,
Right.
and the brain always gets better at what it practices. That's fascinating. So thank you for taking me back to junior high. If we think about other sort of like key things in your career, I think you've been like a C-level leader twice. You've been VP level before that. Clearly leadership, was where you were gravitating to. Might be a little bit of that competition thing you've got. I don't know. I just I wrote a note silently that Natalie is always competing with someone, maybe even me right now. I don't know, because like the most Mesopotamia references, the most books for, there's a competitive element too. So we can blend those two. Like let's pivot to that. Has the competitive side of you always been a plus, or has it ever like worked against you? Have you learned like how to balance that side of you?
I think it's really helped me to challenge paradigms, and not in a cheesy way. If you want to provide the best level of service to a customer, I'll tell another like early stage career story. I worked at a Bed Bath and Beyond when they still existed,
Yeah. I got the
before they thought the
coupons.
internet
I
wasn't
always
going to
got the
come for
coupons.
them.
Right.
And we had these little customer feedback cards.
Mm.
And competition, you could get customer feedback cards, customer compliments. So I worked in hard lines, which is cookware, cutlery, table settings, kitchen, anything that's a kitchen-based implement, up to and including through anything that goes on a dining room table. So it's the hard line side of a Bed Bath & Beyond, then soft lines is bath mats, towels, sheets, bedding, that whole shebang. I worked in hard lines, and so I know a shocking amount about Calphalon cookware, all-clad cookware.
OXO
Yes,
brand. Yeah.
all the things. So deep, so deep. Why you want glass bakeware, metal bakeware, like really insane things. But because I knew all those things, I was really helpful to customers that were coming in to buy cookware or cutlery, which are big ticket purchases. And you're usually, again, typically, you're making that purchase because something exciting is happening. You're moving into a new house. Maybe you're buying it for a wedding registry, purchasing it for a child who's moving into or out on their own for the first time. Like it's generally or you've up leveled and you're like, oh, I'm throwing away my old Circulon cookware and I'm purchasing something that is of a higher quality. It's generally a pretty fun purchase. So I studied and learned the difference between all the different Calphalon lines of cookware and bakeware so that I could be the best, not at selling the highest value of thing, but so that I would get the most customer compliment cards from people who were needing to buy those things so that I could win the monthly competition for for the store.
So I could mow over my Bed Bath & Beyond competition and leave
Yeah.
them weeping in my path of destruction. I'm just kidding. You didn't say that. It's like you were. And by the way, so think of the serendipity of that. Your competition drove customers to have a better experience. So
And
yeah, exactly.
It's just, I don't know. I think that's interesting. So that information acquisition to me was not an active part of my brain. It was, how can I get the most customer compliment cards? Well, customers like to know the answers. They have lots of questions. This is a rare purchase, kind of like ERP. You don't buy ERP applications every day. You buy it once every 10 to 15, probably as often as you're getting new cookware. Unless you bought all-clad stainless steel cookware, in which case that will last you for the rest of your days on this planet, right?
Free recommendation here on the podcast from Natalie. Yeah.
Not a client of mine, but definitely worth investing in. And don't buy copper cookware. It is a colossal waste. You will hate your life. They will never look clean.
Fantastic, man. The bonus. I did not expect all the bonus hard Bed Bath & Beyond hard goods recommendations. That's fantastic. Terrific. So you weren't always in leadership. Most people aren't. Like you were, a sandwich artist and Bed Bath & Beyond. And then I assume early on you had not leadership positions. Did you learn anything about leadership by watching, observing, and taking in both good and bad leaders in companies that you were working in your young stage or mid-stage career?
I caught the bug to be a temp receptionist, accounting assistant, collector, anything that required a large chunk of time for like grunt labor when I was in college. And so I temped for Office Team, which is part of the greater Robert Half collection of businesses. And I did a whole bunch of different things. I did like 22 temp assignments for them over like a 2-year period. And I didn't care what the work was as long as it paid money. There was a custom envelope manufacturer in St. Paul that needed to have their physical dies cataloged in the warehouse. I did that for 2 weeks. The Minneapolis airport was hiring and they needed somebody to work at a job fair and fill out job applications with applicants that came in and file them. And then I did some longer term temp assignments for law offices and creative design agencies and a transportation management company where I was a weekend dispatcher and fleet manager. And then a company called SPS Commerce hired me as a temporary receptionist on a 2-week contract. When you have 22 different bosses as a young adult, you get a lot of experiences and you're a temp, like
low.
You're like below entry level.
Yeah. You're ripe for like all the worst things to happen to you.
And I'm not going to be there for a long time. So as a leader, like you don't have to treat me nice. You
Mm-hmm.
can, like, hopefully you're a reasonable human, but you don't have to be nice to me.
You're a goldfish, right? You're going to
Correct.
be goldfish from the carnival. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm short shelf life. So that gave me a really interesting perspective. What a wide variety of businesses and a wide variety of different leaders look like. And when I started temping at SPS, it was different. The leaders that I got to work with, I was excited to do extra assignments for. I wanted to make sure that if I had spare time, I was raising my hand and asking for extra work. Um, that led me to supporting a newer manager in the accounting group, 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗶, who's still one of my mentors and friends to this day. Like that opportunity, though, to be there at a young tech company that had, seen moderate success and was starting to grow pretty rapidly, that was really fun. And I got to see the CEO. His office was right behind the reception desk, and I got to meet 𝗪𝗀𝗏 and see him every day. And that was it gave me that sort of internal clarity, like, oh, this is different. These are different leaders than the leaders that I've experienced, even though I was still just a temp. And then eventually I wasn't a temp anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really fascinating. Hearing you tell that story, I think about young me. I'm sort of a pretty trusting person and I wasn't super worldly wise. So when I got out of college into my career, I was kind of surprised how many bad bosses there were, how many bad leaders
Mm-hmm.
there were, and how the motives were sort of craven and selfish and manipulative and even mean spirited sometimes. And not all of them were, of course not. Of course not. But back to our high school, like I sort of learned that like work is a lot like high school. You've got
Mm-hmm.
rings of cool and people who are the nice people. And just because someone is a VP or has earned their way to some level of professional respectability has almost no correlation to how good they are as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I think green young me was often surprised. Do you know what I mean? But it
Mm-hmm.
left more of an impression with me because of the sort of shock to my system that, people weren't always I'm in the grown up world now, and not everyone's acting like a grown up is kind of how I would say it. And I think I started, again, it's about you, but I started forming, you sort of implied this with your 22 bosses and you were sort of collecting like, oh, this person like treated me like a human being and this person didn't. And it left an impression on you, which I'm sure was formative as you moved into your future leadership positions.
Totally. And this is rear facing, right? So I get to know now that that provided me a lot of wisdom. At the time, I was just really interested in whoever would pay me money.
Yeah. Let's stipulate we can all put up with a lot of garbage to have to meet, pay for our car payment. And once we have a family to, like not lose our job. That's one of the problems in any business relationship is there are people that will put up with things they shouldn't have to because they have to, you
Right.
know?
It's a commercial arrangement. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Don't let any, so don't, I haven't cleared this with you, but like, don't let everyone tell you that we're like a family here because you're not like a family. Your family is your family.
Right.
And your business is a transactional thing that if it works out for everybody, terrific. So
Right. Right.
you can be
Totally.
friends, but yeah, totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Terrific. Let me tell you a sort of a premise I have, and you tell me if it matched with your career. I'm surprised when I look back on my career how little formal leadership or management training I receive. They just find someone who's good at something and they bump them up. And like, because I made all the mistakes, I made all the managerial mistakes. Did you along the way either have any kind of like formal, like, here's how to be a better manager or leader, like provided by your company? Or did you have like a really good solid mentor or two or three that sort of provided that service for you?
I am incredibly fortunate. And so I'll put two things in the training bucket and two things in the mentorship bucket. On the training bucket, I joined a fast growing technology business that had a really fantastic CEO that believed in professional development for leaders. And
Hmm.
so the longer I was at SPS Commerce, the more formal training was provided. So I worked there for 12 years and I went to some fantastic leadership training, like
Hmm.
really Dale Carnegie plus plus. I mean, it was really exceptional. And you just don't realize everybody doesn't do that. When you're
Right.
going through it, you're like, of course I need this training. This is obvious to me. And then the other thing that I had the good fortune of is 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Cody Marshall. So when they formed RUX Software, immediately adopted Traction, the framework by Gino Wickman. And it's like any diet book, right? Like you just need a structure, and if you follow it, like you got to make good, healthy choices. So I don't think Traction is like the end all be all, but man, what an awesome framework to get everybody talking the same language and show people, okay, if you want to achieve your 1 year objective, you have to have quarterly sub goals, and those quarterly sub goals need to get accomplished on a monthly basis. And you need to write it down and have a plan and have accountability partners in order to reach your end goal. So we use Traction both at Stoneridge and at Net at Work. And that was, again, just incredibly helpful. So I put both those things in the formative leadership training. Is someone in my life made a decision that we were going to do something, and I was the fortunate beneficiary to say, this is super helpful. This is helpful to have a framework for how to do this leadership thing, and how to show up. And then you asked the second part of the question was coaching and mentorship and advisorship. I tell people all the time, I didn't know how fortunate I was at the time, but there was a good, healthy stretch while I was at SPS where I had all female upline leaders. I reported to a female director. We had a female VP of finance who reported into a female CFO. And I had peers who were also other female leaders in the finance and accounting org. What a great experience for me to be surrounded by people that were ahead of me by 5, 10, 15 years in their career that were showing me how to do it.
Yeah.
Like that's a gift.
You fell down the lucky tree and hit all the branches on the way down.
1,000%.
For both of those things, I'm totes jelly about your training side of things. And I know dozens of women that would have killed to have quality female leadership mentors or examples even available to them.
Yeah, it was really, and there were other female leaders in other parts of the business as I was moving up the ranks inside SPS. So it was helpful, not just that I looked upline and there were all these great leaders, but in other branches of the organization, there were other powerhouse leaders that I could look up to. So that was of great fortune. I decided to hire an executive coach and was very, very much fortunate to have supportive leaders at Stoneridge to help me kick that off. And I hired an executive coach, Michael Beach. He and I have worked together now, I think, for 6 years, and strongly recommend it. You know, I tell people who sits in my echo chamber to help make sure that I'm moving on a rational path. And I meet with him once a month.
I was just going to ask you that. How often do you meet with them? Once a month? Is this a fair comparison? I've never had an executive coach. Is it a fair comparison to call it similar to therapy, meaning just to have the person like what? Tell us a little bit inside baseball, like what that kind of relationship is like and how it helps you.
Yeah, I think in order to have a coach really impact you, you have to be incredibly vulnerable, which feels a lot like therapy, incredibly vulnerable on things that you're thinking, that you're feeling, the next steps that you're planning to take, events that have happened that you're reflecting on or maybe ruminating on. You have to be willing to self-report those things and work through those things. And then you have to spend your time constructively working on how am I going to grow through this experience, or how am I going to course correct from the position that I'm in. My favorite Michael Beachism ever is, should I find myself feeling negative, a little complainy, a little whiny,
yeah.
He might remind me that there is no knight on a white horse coming to save me, which immediately triggers in me I don't want to be rescued.
Yeah,
I want to save myself.
Patriarchy? Yeah.
Yes. And every time it's like, okay, let's talk about what you're going to do next.
Fantastic. He reminds you that you're complaining about a thing, but only you are going to be able to solve your way out of this thing.
Correct. Which is quintessentially coaching, right?
Yeah.
How am I what skill do I possess? What strength do I have? What experience can I leverage? How am I going to get to the next step?
Yeah. Fantastic. Love it. That's so helpful. let's pivot a little bit. So as a leader, you've been in multiple leadership positions and had teams of, I'm sure, varying sizes. But what's sort of a let me back into my premise. I've said if you decide to be a leader of people, the feedback loop on how you're doing and the wins gets a little bit vaguer than if you're a coder. If you're a coder, like you write a piece of code, it works, boom, feedback loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're leading people towards a goal and a vision and like herding the cats and getting everyone to know what we're doing and what we're not doing and build a culture, all those very hard things, the feedback loop becomes vague. Like you don't get those like crystalline moments of like, we as a team are crushing it. Or
Mm-hmm.
this person, or let me give you another example, and you can kind of go where you want with this. This person was not really performing well 2 years ago, but we've been working together and working together. Now look at where they have come because we've been working together. So to back up, the question goes something like this. As a leader, when you think back over your career, what are maybe an example or two of like when you did get that like tingly moment of the leadership feedback loop and we are making a difference together? You know what I mean? That maybe it's a project, maybe it's a personal development, anything like that, but to help sort of like let inspire other people who are in leadership positions to like, know that you're on the right track and that things are growing and getting better in that kind of vague feedback loop.
Mm-hmm. As you were asking the question, I thought about my last days at Stoneridge Software before I transitioned to my role at Net at Work. Probably 2 months. I'm going to get the timing directionally correct. Probably 2 months before my last day, we won Microsoft Business Central Partner of the Year. This was in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And my leadership team made for me one of those wrestling heavyweight champ belts
Nice.
that had all my slogans on it. And that is, as you were saying, like those crystalline moments, that was the moment that I knew that I had created a leadership team infused with a culture that wasn't about winning at all costs, but when in a position to celebrate a big win, man, what a treat to get as a leader.
Fantastic.
That was an exceptionally perfect moment for me.
Yeah, crystalline. You talk about crystalline when they hand you the belt. It's unmistakable. Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, just pluck one slogan that would have been on that belt. What was one slogan we would have pulled off that belt in?
Ooh.
Is it "There's no white knight coming for us"? No, I'm just kidding.
That was a lot of words. Yeah. I think I had Business Central Heavyweight Champion.
Oh, I thought it was slogans that you had shared with the team and they had put them on the belt.
So there were a few of those, and I don't know, some of those might be NSFW.
NSFW, okay. I was a little worried about that. NSFW, fair. Moving on to reciprocate, if you don't mind a little bit. Some of my best moments as a leader where I don't want to pick on a generation. I think all the generations are full of bright, hardworking people. I reject the idea that Gen whatever is like all a bunch of slacker losers. Don't buy into it at all. Mm-hmm. But I have had young people come into my organizations not understanding what our expectations were for work and accomplishment and focus and getting your work done. And multiple times I've worked to help coach younger people on like why they didn't meet my expectations and why I was a little bit cross with them, I might say. But then coaching them into and seeing them then go on to successful careers after they sort of like adapted to like, this is what work means and we have to do things a certain way. And I do have expectations. And when you don't meet them, I'll tell them about you and I'll be your coach, not your buddy, not your parent. And I won't yell or table pound, but I'll make it clear that this was not okay. And then help you go on the way, like seeing people's individual careers go on from like maybe a little bit of a shaky start to like kind of figuring things out. It's been very rewarding for me.
What's your hot take on feedback? How do you think it should be delivered? What cadence or frequency, particular format or structure you like? Sounds like you've been in the position to deliver feedback often.
Yeah, I am a built-in feedback machine. Like it's an autonomic response for me. It's bad, my wife will tell you. I don't let things go very long. One of the mistakes, remember I told you I made all the mistakes in my career and I'm really jealous about your training. Like I didn't give feedback to a person for a year and then I sprung it on them in their review.
Mm-hmm.
Very unlike me, personality style. That was a big mistake. Big mistake. My hot take is that, feedback should be professional and not abusive, but I would call it unmistakable. That's what I would call
Mm-hmm.
my style. Unmistakable. I have an
Mm-hmm.
expectation. You didn't meet it. I would, towards the end of my career, Natalie, I would literally tell my staff that I love them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in that professional sense, I love you and that I see the specialness in you and your talent and I care for what happens to you. This has got to get better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, so that's my hot take. What's your hot take? You're the subject. Don't ask me
Well,
the question,
no,
Natalie Lemke.
I wanted your insights. I think
Yeah.
I would share that recently. So I'm confident that my early stage direct reports would have laundry lists of mistakes that I made early on, including the one that you shared just now, the waiting to deliver feedback until the annual performance
Mm-hmm.
evaluation, or thinking you had delivered the feedback, but you actually hadn't made it clear it wasn't unmistakable, right? Recently, I was provided the lens that sometimes you need to provide feedback and advice in the same sit down so
Yeah.
that the individual, especially early stage in career individuals, can map it to, okay, now I don't feel good. But it's come to my attention. Maybe I knew I made a mistake, but now it's come to my attention and it's crystal clear. I need to do something different or better going forward. And I don't know how, and I'm so uncomfortable. I don't know how to ask for that
Mm.
advice. Or I'm going to ask maybe not the right person, maybe not somebody inside the business or inside the industry for that advice. So I received that lens not too many months ago, just the couple feedback with advice, especially when working with early career professionals. And I thought, man, I wish somebody would have told me
Yeah.
that 15, 20 years ago. I would have been a better boss.
Probably like in the interest of time, like if you look back, we've covered lots of things. Any significant things, and this can be off the record, but like
Yeah.
sometimes trauma informs us. We don't have to get into
Mm-hmm.
people's trauma, but it's not always good. Sometimes there's personal trauma, sometimes there's work trauma, sometimes but anything else, when you look at you right now, CEO of a rapidly growing company and long lineage of really great leadership positions, what else sort of got you here that we haven't talked about that maybe you would want to
Mm-hmm.
share on any topic?
I think I had a couple like sort of I'll riff, and these are all from different pockets of my career. I did not know, even being a psychology major, that introverts at work that are analytical thinkers need a minute after I ask a question to pause and consider the answer that they're going to provide. That
Mm.
drove me batty and wild early in my career, especially as a manager of people that had a lot of task oriented things that needed to get done every day. And learning and appreciating someone who approaches work differently than I do was
Yes.
so helpful as a leader. And having people that really cared about me, that were in my corner, that told me when I'm, 2 degrees above the mean standard deviation from an extroversion perspective, that can either be like golden retriever energy or it can be completely overwhelming for the
Hmm.
human being that I'm sitting across. So if I'm 2 cups of coffee in, so excited to talk to you, we're talking about tasks that need to get done today, and you're an introverted analytical thinker, and I'm like a jack in the box, we are not going to have a nice interaction from your perspective. And I am going to want those inputs. So that was a really helpful learning and understanding how different personality profiles show up to work and how they work
Mhm.
together and how they can add complementary value. So helpful to me as a leader to determine motivation styles and sort of moderate when I'm feeling full blown golden retriever, jack in the box energy. Okay, I can
Love it.
calm myself down for a minute. And then learning the co captain, like what does a great co-captain look like for me? What types of personalities do I need to counterbalance the way in work with I show up to work? And so if you think about the design of an organization, can't have 5 golden retrievers on your executive team. That doesn't work
No,
well.
if you
So,
do, it's bad.
right. There's no diversity in thought. There's no diversity in perspective. That can be incredibly helpful. And then those leaders have an accountability to learn how to work together. At Stoneridge, we used a system called the Predictive Index. That was a particularly helpful tool. There's lots of systems out there. There's the DISC assessment. Those are just great tools, not just to learn about yourself as a leader, but to learn and understand other individuals, whether they're individual contributors, managers, or senior leaders on your team. I thought that learning that as a leader was incredibly helpful. The other thing that really crystallized for me was I think as a leader at SPS Commerce, I had an inflection moment where I realized, man, the most fun part of my job is actually rolling out nav to new
Mm.
geographies as part of acquisitions, folding those acquisitions in. That was my favorite part. And so then transitioning to consulting was a little bit scary, but it was mostly exciting because now I got to do that all day long. And then I realized getting to help lots of clients through that process and teams of individuals that are helping businesses go through that change and pick the right apps and deploy them in a way that was right sized for their organization. Like that's really great. And then as I think you know, your nose pressed up against the glass in this sense. There's an overwhelming number of apps that a business can select. And as somebody who sits in the industry, you can do that quick sort, power rank assessment on who should even be on the evaluation list. And
Right.
then what's going to actually make a remarkable impact for that client? What's the difference between the requirements and what the business thinks they need? I think going through that process of realizing what brought me joy at work, the thing I enjoyed the most,
Mm.
who I liked collaborating with in that process, and then finding that doing that through the lens of the actual tech that was getting deployed and understanding how to deliver value, that journey was a lot of aha moments like, I really like this, or
Mm.
this is really important to clients. Clients don't know how to do this. They don't do this but once every 10 to 15 years. They don't have an internal expert. They go to AppSource and there's 7,440 apps listed for Business Central. That sort of realization process through my career, I think, is what helped me arrive in the position that I'm in today, was just those clusters or those bursts of aha, I didn't know. Now I have this clarity. I've got this front row experience. I see a
Yeah.
demonstrated need and have the good fortune to know a lot of folks that are really, really good at different parts of that process.
Yeah. I love there's a lot of things I love in there. One, the self-awareness, the ability to continue to always grow and to learn about yourself. I think so many people have decided they're fine the way they are 30 years ago, and they're just not open to saying, oh, I like this, or I've learned about these people, or I've got to adapt myself in these situations. It's that perpetual journey. I think that's what makes a leader, or actually any employee, but specifically leaders, because you're responsible for others, the ability to keep growing in your awareness of like what's working, what's not working, what mistakes have I made, how can I learn from them? That openness that you described on all those things you just mentioned, I really, really appreciate. I'm going to go back and drill down on one that I really appreciate that you said. Ultimately, despite being in tech, it's still always about human beings. It's both about the human beings that are our customers or that are receiving what we're delivering, or specifically about the teams that we're leading, the
Mm-hmm.
leadership team we're a member of. That is all about human beings. And the more we can be good human beings, the better it's for everyone. And the thing you said that really resonated with me is, and also growing for me in my career, is like, appreciating people regardless of, their hair color or style or lack of, their height, their skin color, their gender, but appreciating people's differences. Like you talked about the extrovert that takes a while to form the words and not being overwhelming to them. But you implied in there, you appreciated this person has a lot to offer, but they offer it up in a different way than I do. And the learning to appreciate that and respect them, even though you're different, I think is what makes a really good leader. In a recent podcast, I talked about stereotypically the bro manager that just hires a bunch of bros because they all want to do bro things, as opposed to like getting people that will challenge you, that are outside of your comfort zone, that don't look like you, that don't sound like you, that don't process like you, that aren't Jack in the Box Labrador Retriever like you, but yet bring this thing that you acknowledge, like you did, is super valuable but different from you. I think that is so rare. It's heartbreakingly rare, or maybe it's just my perspective. But that's what the world needs. Is what workers need. At what makes them feel fulfilled. At what makes you more successful. And it gets a lot of shade these days, and I don't understand it. So that's a little bit of a soapbox there for me.
I love it. I will take you. We'll go all the way back to the questions. So
Yeah.
My sister is very introverted and high attention to detail, analytical thinker. So like you think about who's in your inner circle, who's in your echo chamber with you, what feedback are they sharing with you? When you have a problem that you're workshopping outside of work, what inputs are entering that workshopping process? And for both of my siblings, definitely very comfortable telling their older sister she is an absolute moron. Very comfortable. They have had decades of experience letting me know I am wrong, that they love me, care about me, want the best for me. I'm a moron. And so when you have people that are close to you that are comfortable processing information, are prone to processing information in a way that's very different from you, that hold a different perspective from the perspective that you hold, that work in different businesses and totally different industries, you get I would say I have a healthy amount of conflict in my echo chamber.
Good.
And what a benefit. What a benefit to me that I have human beings that I'm close to that like to tell me I'm wrong. That's helpful as a leader.
I love it. I'm going to let you have the last word, but we could go on and on. Natalie Lemke and I could go on and on, but this has been really fascinating. I feel like I've learned a lot more about you. I want to close the podcast, and then we can say goodbye. I hope, my prayers for you that you someday land that receptionist job at the title company. I'm in your corner rooting for you on that.
Thank you so much.
I believe you. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks everybody for listening. We will see you next time on the last IT podcast in the world. Thanks, Natalie.
Thanks so much for having me, David. It was a
terrific.
hoot.